Yo, what's good people? Today we're going to be talking about Soul Zone. So today is going to be a comprehensive guide on how to use Soul Zone, what situations you would use Soul Zone in, and actually how to beat people pressing on Soul Zone transitions. Because I know, like, you know, QSF 1 Soul Zone, previously QSF 1 Haze is not as strong in this game, I feel like. So we're gonna go over some situations you would use it and how to beat retaliation. Do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe. Liking will help with the algorithm, commenting will also help with the algorithm, and subscribing will let me know that you enjoy the content. Let's get into it. Okay, what is Soul Zone? Soul Zone is a stance that replaces Haze. It is the same input, so you press 3+4 to go into the stance. Now the stance itself is not as evasive, but it has more utility in combos, in mix-ups, for example, like Raw, Soul Zone 4. We're going to be using Soul Zone 4 a lot in this video and just in general gameplay for Oki, so it does have more utility than Haze. I just feel like Haze had a more of a robbery factor, if that makes sense. Like, you know, old Haze 4 was the kind of teleport kick that you could react to moves with. She had obviously Haze 3, but that's, you know, from full crouch, but Haze 3 actually counted launched, whereas this only counted knocks down. So there were some benefits to Haze, I think, but overall I think Soul Zone is a much better stance. So we're going to break down every single move from Soul Zone, and then we're going to jump into where you would use Soul Zone, whether it be combos, whether it be for Oki. And we're also going to cover how to maneuver around retaliation using Soul Zone, because, you know, QSF 1 is a weaker move by all metrics in this game, but you can still use it into Soul Zone. But we're going to discuss how to use it and how to kind of get around retaliation. Previously mentioned, to go into Soul Zone, just as a raw transition, you press 3+4. Now, during some moves, you can actually hold down to transition into Soul Zone as well. So like down back to 1 into Soul Zone, you can press down or 3+4. Personally, I like to press 3+4 just because it's more comfortable, other than if I'm doing, for example, while standing 3-2, I will use 1-2 down because it feels more comfortable to me, just instead of 1-2 3+4, if that makes sense. So for example, you see how I held down there instead of pressing 3+4. Okay, we're gonna start off by breaking down every move from Soul Zone. Soul Zone 1 is a 14 frame high poke with an extension. Soul Zone 1-4. So basically the same move as down forward 1-4, but in Soul Zone, essentially, because down forward 1 is 14 frames. Soul Zone 1 is also 14 frames. So this will beat Rage Art on block. Back 1, Soul Zone 1. We're going to talk about the moves that put Raven into Soul Zone and what moves you can transition into Soul Zone from. But right now, we're just going to cover, you know, each Soul Zone move and what it's used for and how you can apply it. As you can see, 14 frame. You can also hold forward to go into crouch dash. So Soul Zone 1 forward. And then obviously you can do whatever you want from crouch dash. The only thing that I don't like about this is that you can't actually cancel the crouch dash with up. That's one thing that I want Raven to have. First of all, I want Raven to be able to crouch dash from Soul Zone by itself, like this, Soul Zone crouch dash, because Master Raven in Tekken 7 could do QSF 1 Haze, crouch dash, and then cancel the crouch dash with up and block. Now that was super powerful because QSF 1 was a counter hit launcher, for example. So that's where I'm saying Haze had its benefits. Now with Soul Zone 1, you can't actually cancel the crouch dash with up, which sucks. So you have to kind of, you're committed to doing something, if that makes sense. So that's Soul Zone 1, and we're gonna get into where you would use Soul Zone 1, mainly in combos, to be honest. Like when you tailspin, you would dash Soul Zone 1, QSF 1-2 for a lot of wall carry. So that's one instance you would use Soul Zone 1 in combos, but we're going to get into that on the utilities of Soul Zone. Soul Zone 2 is one of his heat engages. This is a really, really good move because you can hit confirm the heat dash launcher. So it is actually a heat dash launcher, as you can see, but you can hit confirm that. So what I mean by that is if you go into heat and you see it hit, you can still hold forward. Pay attention to the command history. I'm pressing forward very late. So we're going to go into heat, see it hits, and then hold forward. So you can actually hit confirm this launcher. You don't need to burn heat. A lot of characters, they need to kind of commit to the heat dash and they can't hit confirm the heat dash launcher. But with this move, you can hit confirm the launcher, which is really good. So we're going to put him to block. So you can kind of get a bit of picture for what I'm saying. So for example, if you mix them up, you know, you've got plenty of time to react. Let's put it on random block so you know I'm not just talking rubbish. Hit confirm. So as you can see, it is hit confirmable. It just takes a little bit of practice, but having Soul Zone 2 as a hit confirmable launcher is insane. See, and I held forward for that hitting. So again, it is hit confirmable. You just kind of need to practice it a little bit. But yeah, that's Soul Zone 2 and it being able to be hit confirmed, which is super strong, especially if you're using it for Oki a lot. Soul Zone 4. Soul Zone 4 is the move we're primarily going to be using for Oki because it has a lot of active frames. Look at the active frames. That was -9 on block. It has insane active frames. It has 7 frames of active frames, so you know you can space it to be safe, obviously, as I just showed. But also on hit, it's going to be +9, I think, up to +9. So that was -10, -9, and that would have been +9 on hit. So then leaves you in full crouch, and you can obviously go for a full crouch mix. So that's Soul Zone 4. There's no extension, it's just that's what it is by itself. Now this is a counter hit launcher, so if we turn off random block, as you can see, so counter hit launch, Soul Zone 3. Soul Zone 3 is really good because it acts as kind of a longer range down back 2. It has the same frames, so +5 on hit, -4 on block. So if we turn block on, so down back 2, -4, Soul Zone 3, -4. Put you into back turn. Now this has more range and it low crushes as well. So this is a really good option for, you know, mix up potential. So if they block a heat smash, for example, you are put into Soul Zone. You can't get out of it. You can't cancel it. But they have to guess here between either Soul Zone 2, Soul Zone 4, or you can sometimes do White Hole. So Soul Zone White Hole, but we're going to get onto Soul Zone White Hole after we discuss Soul Zone 3. So as I was saying, Soul Zone 3 is a longer range down back 2 and is used to get into back turn just the same way kind of thing, just out of stance. But it's really, really good. Like, look at the range of this. Insane range. So yeah, longer range down back 2. And it also has an extension, Soul Zone 3-2. Now this is a tailspin move. What I mean by that is it's one of the moves you would use to extend combos. So for example, that's a tailspin, the tornado spin. So Soul Zone 3-2 acts as one of your main tailspin attacks. Same with QSF 1-2. Kind of acts as the same sort of property of the move, tailspin. Where this gets interesting is all of his clone attacks. So you can see the purple clone now is orange. Now what that means is that these are safe on block now, because Soul Zone 3-2 by itself is -14 on block. Now I'm going to show you that. Block all. So the purple clones are always -14 on block. You see how the purple clones are -14? No matter what move I'm doing, they're always -14. So yeah, you just have to be careful with throwing out Soul Zone 3-2 because it is quite punishable on block. Now if we enter heat, -3 on block with chip damage. So that's why all of his clone attacks are so good in heat. Because now, while standing 3-2 is a safe launcher, for example, you've got QSF 1-2, you've got down forward 1-4 being safe, you've got, you know, back turn G clef, back turn 2-2-1 being safe as well, which is really good at the wall because it will catch people stepping, pressing, and then you can kind of, you know, tailspin at the wall or some Oki. So that's Soul Zone 3-2. And as I said, you would use it mainly in combos. Okay, Soul Zone 1+2 acts as his strong aerial spin attack. So what I mean by that is some moves have a weird property where they spin them very high in the air. Just going to do while standing 3-2, Soul Zone 1+2. And you see how it has that kind of high spin attack? I don't really know how to describe it, but you know, other moves don't have that animation. So if you do the same launcher, they don't have that same animation. Even with tailspin attacks. Now this actually insta screws, so now we can't do a tailspin attack, for example. So like if we do Soul Zone 3-2, it's not going to extend the combo because we've already tailspun with the launcher is a tailspin itself. So yeah, Soul Zone 1+2 allows us to, you know, extend combos. Now you would use it in a situation like this. So that's one way you would use those strong aerial attacks. Now back turn, back 3 is also one of his strong aerial attacks, and so is up 3. But they have very limited usage. Soul Zone 1+2 is the best move for that kind of use case. Now it does knock down on hit for a free back 3, so they can't escape that. And it's actually, it looks plus on block, but it's not plus on block. It's 0 on block. So that's one thing to keep in mind. It does look plus, so you can start doing stuff like down for 3 if they want to press. I've caught a lot of people with this. So yeah, Soul Zone 1+2 on the whole is very strong. I'm going to show you it in block actually before I move on. So block. You'll see what I mean when I say it looks plus. Like it looks plus, but it's not. It's 0. So one thing to keep in mind. But yeah, that is Soul Zone 1+2. Very good. And obviously it homes as well. So if you kind of, you know, find your opponent stepping a lot after like back 1, for example, or down back 2, 1 punish, or even just normally, you can transition into Soul Zone with either down or 3+4 and track. So it is a fully homing move. They cannot step this. So that's one use case for it as well. Although I don't really use that for homing. I use down foot 1 because down foot 1 still homes. Essentially, it tracks both sides. So yeah, if I want to track, I will still use, you know, down forward 1. Raven still has really good tracking, like down back 2 still track side step left. For example, forward 2, 3, 3, 3, they both track opposite directions. So he still has very good options for tracking. This move also tracks a lot. Hell Sweep also tracks a lot. You can step it in this game, but still has very good tracking. So overall, Raven's tracking is not a problem. So that's why his homing moves aren't that good. Like he has Soul Zone 1+2 and forward 3 and stuff, but honestly, they're not great as homing moves. Like quite slow. You know, this is from stance. Like the move itself is fast, but you have to be in stance to access it. So yeah, his homing moves aren't the best, but his tracking is still very good. That's Soul Zone 1+2 and the use case for Soul Zone 1+2. Okay, last but not least is his White Hole stuff from Soul Zone. So there's 3 versions of White Hole. White Hole is just a teleport, but it has evasive properties. And I'm going to show you why this is important on stuff like QCF1, for example. But yeah, he has Soul Zone down to go into full crouch. So for example, you can mix. He has Soul Zone up, which is just neutral. So you can do just normal moves, you know, down foot 1, or another one that is good is, which I used in Tekken 7, is White Hole into down foot 3. And it catches, you know, high attacks or people mashing jabs and trying to kind of interrupt. This one is good. But yeah, that's Soul Zone up. And then we also have Soul Zone back to go into back turn. So it's kind of impossible to tell in the moment what orientation Raven's going to be in. So it is kind of a mix. Like for example, if you punish with down back 2-1 into Soul Zone, and don't worry, we're going to go into every move that transitions into Soul Zone. But just for argument's sake, if we do down back 2-1 into Soul Zone, they're not going to know which direction I'm actually ending up in. You know, it's kind of a mix. They don't have enough time to react. They kind of just have to react to something I do after it. You know, it is a guess. So White Hole used effectively is really, really, really strong. Like I can't stress enough. I don't use it nearly as much as I should be using White Hole. As said before, you can teleport from Soul Zone. The issue is that opponents can interrupt this transition. Now, the cool thing is that you can delay your teleport. So this is immediate timing, for example, and then this is delayed. So I'm waiting a little bit. So pay attention to the frame meter. So there was 5 frames in between 3+4 and, you know, White Hole. So there was 2 frames, 4 frames. Now look how much I delay. 23 frames. So you can delay it quite a bit, 26 frames. See what I mean? So you can delay it by quite a bit, which is really, really good. Now I'm going to show you an instance where you can be floated but also the counterplay to being floated if you know they mash on immediate timing. Okay, so now we've recorded him to do a mid check. So I'm going to get floated on immediate timing. Now watch this. So look now, I'm going to get floated. That's on immediate timing. Now watch when I delay it. I go over the down forward 1. So if you know your opponent's going to mash, for example, if they mash after a full crouch sweep, this is a good one because you can evade get up kicks. So look now. See how Soul Zone 2 trades. Now, obviously, yes, you can beat it by Soul Zone 3 and Soul Zone 4. But Soul Zone 2 is now taken away because of mashing. So at the wall, I was saying how, you know, opponents like to mash like this. So it kind of removes the threat of Soul Zone 2, for example. Now that would have wall splat, but it takes away, you know, pretty much all options when they mash like this. We're going to do sweep. -9 slide setup on top of that. Insane. But this only works really at the wall. So if you notice them pressing, you can actually punish them for mashing after, you know, hell sweep. Now it depends on the axis of the sweep at the wall, because it alters kind of the frames of sweep, which is really weird. But so sometimes it will just whiff and you can launch. So it's not, you know, it's not the best counterplay, but keep it in mind that they can mash, you know, get up kicks at the wall, and that can be a lot of options. Like even Soul Zone 1 gets beat, you see. So the only thing to do now would be delayed white hole, for example. So that's white hole. As mentioned before, we're going to show you every move that transitions into Soul Zone, so you can kind of pick and choose what moves you want to use for the Soul Zone transition. So first one, down back 2-1. Go down back 2-1 3+4, or down back 2-1 down. So that's a strong one. Oh, I forgot to mention, you can do Soul Zone from full crouch by pressing in full crouch, hold down and press 3+4. Now why this is scary is because you can crouch dash into Soul Zone, which is insane. And you can kind of stutter pressure. So for example, a lot of people look for hell sweep after, you know, 2 wave dashes. But what you can do to break defense is Soul Zone now after, you know, 2 or 3 wave dashes. And that will break defense, and now they have to guess again. So that's one thing to keep in mind. I did forget to mention that, but you can do Soul Zone from full crouch, which is really, really strong. See what I mean? See why it's so strong? Because the mix-up potential is insane. So yeah, keep that in mind. You can do Soul Zone from full crouch by pressing in full crouch, which is just holding down or down forward or down back. You're in full crouch. So just press either down back 3+4 or down 3+4. Now, if you press down forward 3+4, you're going to get sweep. So don't press down forward 3+4 if you want to do Soul Zone. It's down 3+4 or down back 3+4. So for example, like this at the wall, bam, they have to guess, because the sweep is 17 frames and the mid is 18 frames. So it's not really fuzzyable. There's only 1 frame of fuzzy timing. So yeah, you can't really fuzzy that mix up. It's just they have to guess. So yeah, that is Soul Zone from full crouch. So back to down back 2-1. So down back 2-1 3+4, down back 2-1 down. Both are valid transitions. It's just whatever works for you. I like to press 3+4 personally, and down in very specific use cases. But yeah, so that's down back 2-1. We've got 1-2 Soul Zone. Now you can use this as a 10 frame punish into mix up at +6. So now this is going to be a frame trap. This most likely is going to be a frame trap because it evades highs. So usually the high moves are the quickest moves. So like your 10 frames, your 11 frames, stuff like that. So 1-2 Soul Zone is valid for a 10 frame mix up if you want to mix. So for example, this is +6, right? So this is going to beat 13 frame mid pokes, just for, you know, just for reference. Now this is going to beat 12 frame mid pokes. Now usually, you know, when we're talking about 10 frame and 11 frames, they're usually high moves. So what's going to happen now is it's going to beat every retaliation option because this also tracks. So they can't actually step this move because this move just fully tracks. So yeah, 1-2 Soul Zone is really good for 10 frame mix up. And yeah, you can kind of do whatever you want from it, really. Just good mix up potential. Let's talk about QSF1 Soul Zone. Now, QSF1 Soul Zone isn't that good in this game. I'd like to see some more usage from it. Like, you know, hit confirm window and Soul Zone crouch dash. I want to see Soul Zone crouch dash from this. And then crouch dash to be able to be cancelled with up as it was in Tekken 7, because that allowed power mid from wave dash. Now, currently, we don't really have a power mid anymore. It's, you know, QSF 1-2 isn't as good. -14 on block, no hit confirm window. So there's no power mid. While standing 2 isn't really a power mid unless it's counter hit, obviously. While standing 3 doesn't knock down, doesn't wall splat. So again, not really a power mid anymore. This is tied behind while standing 3-2. And obviously that's -14 on block because of the, you know, the clones. So yeah, that's QSF 1 Soul Zone. And additionally, you can do QSF 1 down. Now, one thing to note is that after QSF 1, you can delay the Soul Zone transition. So this is immediate timing. And then this is delayed. See? Just to kind of, you know, catch timing if they're fuzzying stuff. Can be quite a useful thing to do. So that is QSF 1 Soul Zone. Now we're going to talk about back turn 2-2. Now, back turn 2-2 is his new, it's not a new string, but he has back turn 2-2-1, which is new, which is his back turn G clef. Now, on counter hit, the whole thing's guaranteed. You would use this at the wall for a counter hit fishing tool. But on counter hit, the whole thing's guaranteed, just like 1-2-4. See? Now, it's the same at the wall. So let's get him to the wall. And you can set up a +8 sweep or a -10 sweep, which is insane. But from back turn 2-2, you can do Soul Zone. So if you know you have the respect now, because they're scared of the, you know, G clef, you can actually just start doing mix-ups from back turn 2-2. So yeah, you can get very creative with this. See what I mean? And then they don't want to take the mix and they press and they get hit. And then you can kind of mix it in your, you know, back turn stuff. This is plus. So now you can do back turn. Yeah, there's just so much you can do with back turn 2-2 Soul Zone. So that is really, really, really good. So that's back turn 2-2 Soul Zone. And obviously, yes, you can press down to transition as well, if you so choose. Personally, I like 3+4 just because it's more natural for me to press on my controller. But if down is more natural, then by all means press down. I just like to keep the white hole transition separate because now I'm going to have to press down twice if I want to do that. Whereas I only have to press down once if I want to do that transition. So just feels a little bit more natural for me. So as I said before, you can do down or 3+4. Doesn't really matter. Next one is forward 2-3 Soul Zone, which is really good for Oki. You can do forward 2-3 Soul Zone 4 and set up safe slides. So you can see that in detail in my Oki guide. So I released 2 Oki guides in Raven 101. So I think it's episode 10 and 11. And I really do go into detail about how to use Soul Zone after 423 for Oki. It's really strong. So I suggest you go and watch that if you want spicy Oki tech. But yeah, that is 423 Soul Zone, which can be used obviously as a long range whiff punish tool into mix because this is also +6. So again, this is going to beat 12 frame moves. So they're forced to do highs, which obviously will get beat by Soul Zone 4. So they have to just guess, essentially. Which is real sick. Final one is back turn forward 4-1 into Soul Zone. Now this makes it +8. So they have to guess. Like this is a frame trap by itself. This is actually a frame trap, which is insane. So they can't mash. And then this will trade with 10 frame moves. Yeah, this one is insane. This is probably his best transition. for me personally. Or down back 2-1 soul zone. Because you would use it in combos. Like this, for example. So really, really strong. Actually, the last one is backflip into soul zone, which is really bad. I don't know why they did this. We can't cancel soul zone. They should give us an option to cancel it by holding back or something, because this was very useful, the backflip. They completely just killed the move by forcing soul zone. So yeah, I don't know why they did that, but yeah, kind of just have to work with it. But yeah, this is, I mean, this can be kind of cool if you want to do, you know, the unblockable, but the soul zone is pretty useless. I mean, there's no value from using this move, honestly, because you can't even really use it effectively for spacing either. It's just kind of like, yeah, you can't accurately space yourself with the move. See? So I would like rather position myself with movement and then soul zone 4 if I'm going to do soul zone 4. But yeah, this is terrible. I don't know why they added this, but that is the final transition. So those are the moves that transition you into soul zone. As promised, we're going to look at some soul zone stuff, how you would apply it in combos and such. So that's one use case for forward 2-3 soul zone. And as I said, I have a full Oki video too, actually, and this is covered within it. It's so insane, especially after, you know, soul zone 1+2, high aerial spin, dash, forward 2-3, soul zone 4. Insane. Definitely get used to using forward 2-3, soul zone 4 in combos and learn like what combos give you what situation. So for example, this one would be good as well. Now you can force a -12 sweep from that combo. The first combo I did with soul zone 1+2, the sweep can be -10 or -9. It just depends on how far you dashed, active frames and such. But I do explain that in the Oki video, so definitely do give that a watch if you are interested in, you know, some cool Oki. So that's forward 2-3, soul zone 4. Back 1, sorry, I forgot about back 1. Back 1 forces soul zone, so it's not really a transition you can choose to do. It just forces soul zone, which I want to be able to, you know, transition into soul zone. I don't want to be forced into soul zone, because they can rage out this, for example. They can rage out this as well. Kind of like on block, I mean, because it's +7 on block. Now if I do this, they can rage out. The only thing they can't rage out is this. So this is actually a frame trap. Perfect frames. So this on block would be a +3 interaction, because this move is 14 frames and back 1 is +7 on block. So there's 3 frames of advantage. So that means they can't rage out, but they can heat burst and they can power crush, depending on what move they use. Now, actually, I don't think there's any power crushes that can activate from force crouch, but they can still heat burst. So yeah, it's a good move for sure, but it's just I want to be able to pick if I go into soul zone. So that is another soul zone transition I forgot to mention. Now you can use this if you launch, for example. Let's try that again. Into full crouch and then do a mix if they tech roll. So that is a good use case. But again, why would you use that when you can use soul zone? Yeah, this transition does more damage. So this is kind of obsolete for me personally. I mean, the only benefit to this is that it's quicker and it gives you more frames to do stuff after, you know, soul zone, because it transitions into soul zone quicker. So that's the only use case that I could see for this, you know, back 1 over forward 2-3 soul zone. But then again, if you want to go for Oki, forward 2-3 soul zone is better because it has better, you know, slide spacing. Whereas like back 1, it doesn't space the slide to be safe. So it depends what you want to go for. If you want to go for a straight, you know, heat 50-50 after heat burst, then back 1 is probably your best bet. But if you want some damage, better damage, and, you know, Oki potential, you know, 4-2-3 soul zone is the way to go. Another use case for this is to maximize combo damage. So you use soul zone 1+2 for strong aerial spin. Now obviously he does have different ones, but his main one is Soul Zone 1+2, so that's why you would use, you know, Soul Zone in combos. Another one would be to maximize combo damage mid-screen. So 94 damage, and that's because you use strong aerial spin. Now obviously it does have more combos that, you know, incorporate this strong aerial spin and also up 3. So I'll show you one with up 3, for example, just for, you know, argument's sake. So for example, if we wall splat, we can do strong aerial spin here, which is, you know, just adds a bit more combo damage. Now just doing something like, as you can see, it's a lot more damage. So 69 versus something like what, 63 or something like that. So it does give you some more points of damage, and obviously depending on the axis, you can get something else. So look at this. This is pretty insane. -10. Now, if you want to learn about that further, you can go and see my Oki guide. I do cover, you know, options around it, you know, counterplay, what the mid threat is and stuff like that. But the fact that he can set up a -10 Soul Zone slide, you know, and you can still get that from a strong aerial attack. So again, that's another strong aerial attack use case. But his main one obviously is Soul Zone 1+2. And it wall splats, as you can see. But yeah, those are a few use cases for Soul Zone in combos to, you know, give Oki. Because the thing is, Soul Zone 1+2 sets up the spacing for 4-2-3 Soul Zone 4. Now, if I didn't do that, if we switch back to the infinite part of the stage and show you the frames. -11. Now, you can get that to be -9. It just depends on the spacing. But as you can see, -11. Now, let's do another combo. For example, that doesn't have strong aerial spin in it, but still does a lot of wall carry. So, like this, for example. You're going to find it's not -11, it's -13. Same thing, -12. So, the strong aerial attack allows us to be more safe. See, -10. Now, you can obviously space it to be -9, but as you can see, the benefit of using strong aerial attacks is that you can set up better Oki. So, I prefer to use it in combos when needed. Soul Zone does have good utility. I just think it feels a bit restrictive at the moment, and you know, I can't crouch dash out of it. I can't do certain things out of it. I feel locked in the stance, and with Haze, I felt like there was ways to get out of it. There was ways to maneuver around it, you know, crouch dash being the main one. I just feel like I'm a little bit stuck in the mud in this stance because, you know, there's no real safe low threat out of this. So it's like, well, you know, and on hit, it's like, what does it really do on hit? It's only +2, right? So I could understand if it was like +5 on hit. Then I could be like, okay, cool. But it's +2. So the low threat isn't really that annoying. It's -16 on block. So the low threat is risky, you know? And for me to kind of, you know, enforce advanced mind games, I have to have extreme conditioning. So, you know, stuff like this, you can just be jabbed out of that. So I would have to be super big brain, read a button they're going to press, delay the teleport, and then punish them. But again, that is just too big brain. Like, I want to have some more utility out of the stance, and giving him a crouch dash out of it like Haze would absolutely solve that. Having QCF1 hit confirm window that I don't always have to go into Soul Zone would solve that. So again, this is not a downplay video. It's just kind of voicing my opinions on, you know, Soul Zone and utility of it. I do think it's still a better stance than Haze overall. I just think Haze had better ways to move around the stance, in my opinion. But that was Soul Zone. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, you know, please do leave a comment and I'll try to get back to you. But until then, hope you enjoyed. Peace.